Hello and thanks for joining us on the news on Cbc Tv. I am Emanuela Moni. First, our headline. Celebrating the heart of the church, we join the CBC in honoring our women founders. BCHS Njinikijem now has a new principal. Mr. Ngong Isaac Awo is the new principal of BCHS Njinikijem. The handover and installation ceremony took place on Saturday, June 27, 2026, in the presence of Dr. Atanga Naftali, CBC Education Secretary, and a host of others. Elvis Doe, our Bellofield correspondent, tells us more in the following report.
Decision number CBC/EP/J/LCM 090/2026 of the 17th of June 2026, appointing Mr. Ngang Isaac Awo as principal of BCHS Ginikiji.
Dr. Atanga Naftali, the Education Secretary of the Cameroon Baptist Convention Education Board, have presided over the handing over ceremony and installation of the new principal of Baptist Comprehensive High School, Njinikijem in Bellofield. The handing over and installation ceremony held on Saturday, 27 June 2026 in the school hall under the careful watch of the Bellofield pastor, the Reverend Dr. James Samuel. The outgoing principal, Mr. To Gottlof, who has been transferred to BHS Mancon, was congratulated for his dedication to BCHS Njinikijem. In his handing over note, Mr. To Gottlof was full of praise to God for the opportunity to have served BCHS Njinikijem for a period of 2 years. He appreciated his closest collaborators and the entire staff community for helping him to succeed in his administration. Mr. To Gottlof will be remembered for piloting the affairs of BCHS courageously. While installing the new principal, Mr. Ngang Isaac Awo, the Education Secretary, urged the incoming principal to discharge the duties of his office in keeping with the CBC Constitution and bylaws and the internal rules and regulations of the Education Board. In a prayerful ceremony to install the new principal, the men of God present at the occasion called on God to bless the new administration and to prosper BCHS. In response, Mr. Ngang Isaac pledged to do his best to move BCHS Njinikijem forward with the help of God. It should be noted that before his appointment as the principal of BCHS Njinikijem by the executive president of the Cameroon Baptist Convention, the Reverend Dr. Teke John, Mr. Ngang Isaac served as the vice principal of BCHS Nkwen in charge of academics.
Reverend Tata Stephen Gur of Praise Baptist Church Ndongo in Boya has been sent forth after 16 years of ministry in that church. Relindis Maledi has the details.
It was a day of gratitude at Praise Baptist Church Ndongo. After 16 years of ministry, the congregation sent forth Reverend Tata Stephen Guru, a mandate completed, a shepherd released. Under his tenure from 2009 to 2005, the church grew from one fellowship in a little congregation of plank building to a large congregation of believers thriving in faith and purpose. Guest speaker Reverend Dr. Paul Wosemukake preached on the topic pioneering the essence of missionary thinking from Acts chapter 11 verse 19 to 21, with a call for the church to intentionally continue pursue the missionary agenda of God as Reverend Tata did.
Our church in this generation should not lose its missional sight. It is in the missional sight that we will accomplish God's purpose. It is in the missional side that we will join God at war. It is in the missional side that many more Praise Baptist Church logos will be there. But the question is, will you participate in that process? Or will you sit in your comfort zone?
The high point of the service was the historic Sanford Rite. A college of clergy laid hands on the Reverend Tata and wife alongside the field pastor, Reverend Ebai Douglas. After that, Reverend Tata symbolically handed over the church documents and keys to the field pastor, who in turn handed it over to the appointed deacon, and he was officially sent forth.
I, Ebai Douglas, and God support the pastor, I officially terminate Reverend Tata Stephen's services today, the 28th of June, 2026.
His impact was attested by many leaders who had served under him. On behalf of the church, the appointed deacon, Mr. Kencho Desmond, handed certificates of recognitions to all the leaders and the associate pastor who had served under Reverend Tata's mandate from the inception of the church. An envelope and a special recognition was also handed to the Reverend Tata and his family, and the church and special invitees gave gifts of love to the pastoral family. In his final words, Reverend Tata Stephen said thank you with the church for the church to build on the already laid foundation.
Build higher without forgetting the foundation. May they run faster without despising those who have cleared the path. May they harvest more without forgetting those who have planted in tears.
Pastor Frank Toge takes over for Praise Baptist Church Ndongo. 16 years ends and the story continues.
And now we move over to our Founders Day package. In Baele Baptist Church, 10 women were dedicated into the women's department on this special day. These women and others were called upon to be set apart for God in a changing world. As dedication isn't just for one day, but living by the word of God is true commitment, as Reverend Bonko George emphasized as he drew his charge from Romans 12, 1 and 2. He called on all the women to become the light of God in their homes and communities, standing firm in a changing world. The women also graced the event with their beautiful dance steps during the ballet and cultural dance.
Women of Salvation Baptist Church Obili Yaoundé joined thousands of their peers across the Cameroon Baptist Convention last Sunday to celebrate the Women Founders Day in an atmosphere of joy, worship, and spiritual renewal. One of the highlights of the ceremony was the dedication of new members into the Women's Fellowship of Salvation Baptist Church, holding lighted candles as a symbol of Christ's light and their commitment to shine in a dark world. The newly dedicated women reaffirmed their resolve to serve God faithfully. They also used the occasion to invite and encourage young ladies to become part of the ministry and continue advancing God's kingdom. The congregation was equally blessed by a thought-provoking sketch that underscored the vital role of women in building strong Christian homes. Delivering the sermon of the day, Pastor Fopa Lonsi Thierry challenged the women to cultivate empathy in their daily lives, stressing that their first and most important ministry begins at home. He encouraged them to be women of compassion, love, and godly character, reflecting Christ in their families and communities. The celebration was further enriched by the participation of the 3H, whose recitation of memory verses and melodious presentations added color and inspiration to the occasion. Speaking after the dedication, some of the newly admitted women expressed gratitude and excitement for becoming members of the women's wing of the Cameroon Baptist Convention.
I've learned to be a better mother home. I've learned how to serve by taking care of my children, to take care of my home, to serve my community at large, and today is proof that it was a great success. I'm among those that have been dedicated today. So I'm so excited as I've been dedicated, and I hope to encourage other women to come and join us.
The Founders Day celebration ended on a joyous note, with women rejoicing together and reaffirming their commitment to be godly role models for their children, families, and the wider society.
At Caris Community Baptist Church, Agape, and Faith Mile 1, women celebrated the day in grand style, as Mfomi Kensa Kaisa reports.
The CBC Women's Founders Day 2026 was marked with worship, dedication, evangelism, and a renewed call for Christians to move beyond sympathy to genuine empathy. At Caris Community Baptist Church, Dagem, 3 women were dedicated during the celebration. A thought-provoking drama highlighted the difference between sympathy and empathy, challenging worshippers to identify with the needs of others rather than merely feeling sorry for them. Preaching on the occasion, the guest minister emphasized that empathy is a defining mark of a Christian.
If you're a Christian and you do not uphold a different standard, you do not uphold a different way of life, then what are you? What different will you be?
At Agape Baptist Church in Tenefo, Mendankwe, women took their message beyond the church walls through an evangelistic march in the community, inviting residents to embrace the love of Jesus Christ. A creative presentation of the 3H display. Meanwhile, at Faith Baptist Church Mile 1 Upstation, Bamenda, 2 women were dedicated as part of the celebration. This year's Women's Founders Day was anchored on the theme of family empathy, encouraging believers to move beyond sympathy and cultivate a lifestyle of compassionate action that reflects the love of Christ. The celebration across the churches echoed a common message. True Christian faith is demonstrated not only by feeling for others, but by standing with them in love and service.
In Cambe, Alphonse IV paints a picture of how Founders Day was celebrated in churches across Nkambe Field.
The celebration was observed in all local churches throughout the field, with the 3H in attendance, adding significance and encouragement to the occasion. The day was marked by worship services, special presentations by the women, and messages that highlighted the vital role of the women in strengthening Christian homes and advancing the missions of the church. A major highlight of the celebration was the dedication of a number of women into the various women's fellowship across the churches in Cbc Tv field. The dedication ceremony symbolized their commitment to faithful service, spiritual growth, and active participation in the ministry of the church. The celebration was held under the theme, Empathy in the Family, drawn from 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. The message challenged Christian families, particularly women, to demonstrate love, compassion, responsibility, and care for one another, emphasizing that genuine empathy strengthens family relationships and reflects Christ's love.
Let's meet John Solonko in Nonifield as he tells us about Founders Day celebration in Revival Baptist Church Nko Association.
It is said that any organization without women will surely end in chaos. Today, the 28th of June 2026, was the Founders Day celebration of the Cameroon Baptist Convention Women's Department. Nonifi was not left out. Core Association, precisely Revival Baptist Church, did observe this day under the theme Empathy in the Family, drawing inspiration from 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. The 3H guide of the church, Madame Dimila Mariana, called on the women while extending the call to the entire church to practice empathy in the family through care for one another, listening from one another, sacrifice for one another in the family. The occasion was marked with presentations like special numbers, memory verses, testimonies, and presentation from the 3H. Dressed in the green kaba, the occasion was spiced with the color of the women and the smile that emanates from their faces.
In Bafusam, Divine Damsa paints a complete picture of Founders Day celebration in Solemn Baptist Church.
On the 28th of June 2026, women of the Cameroon Baptist Convention marked Women's Founders Day in all CBC churches nationwide. At Solemn Baptist Church, the service was led entirely by women from Sunday school to praise and worship. The day featured a drama calling for empathy in our homes and a sketch encouraging women to always be productive. They were empowered on how to make liquid soap during their activities in the week. A special moment came when 5 women were dedicated, marking a new step in their journey of faith and service. They demonstrated their new journey with lessons they had learned and a song. The pastor of Solemn Baptist Church, Reverend Pierre Sunday's message centered on empathy in the family from 1 Timothy 5 verse 8. He said empathy is action, not just feeling. Christians must provide financially, emotionally, spiritually, and with their time, because neglecting family dishonors God and weakens our witness. CBC Women's Director, Fola Janet, in her speech to the women, themed Living the Good News Through Empathy, urged women to be God's hands in their communities. At the end, one of the dedicated women spoke to Cbc TV about her journey.
It has been a very interesting journey, given that I was given a candle in 2022, but I felt reluctant to take up this commitment. But by the grace of God, in this year 2026, God laid it in my heart, and I felt it so strongly that I should be fully committed to the women's group.
For the CBC women, Founders Day was a call to live the gospel through empathy at home, in the church, and in the nation.
Bethel Baptist Church Kongsamba celebrated the day with joy, as Emmanuel Fanka, our Kongsamba field correspondent, tells us in the following report.
Women Founders Day, an annual celebration of the Christian woman in our context, was fully and joyously observed in Kongsamba Fields Bethel Baptist Church, Ebo, amongst others, this Sunday, June 28, 2026. The women once more showcased their engagements towards God's business. Conspicuously, through their singing, dancing, and testimonies, it is assuring that the Cameroon Baptist Convention woman is undeniably building momentum as the church looks forward to the second.
Yes. Okay, this Women Founders Day 2026 It don't be a very special one. Why it be special? Because the women they be joyful as they be celebrate, as a lesson it don't come for remind them to show empathy to their family, to the community, and to the world at large. That's why it be a very special Founders Day.
Will be for the Christian women, so it be a great celebration unto me, and we celebrate with our family, our children, as well as we talk about impact this year, so we empathize too with our families.
One of the prominent and unstoppable sister, Bonkun Suzanne, fed God's people from 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 under the caption, "A woman that can stand in the gap," stating Esther as one of the examples to be emulated.
And on to something else, staff of Bingo Baptist Hospital recently celebrated the 2026 edition of the Chaplain's Love Day. It was in the presence of Bellowfield Pastor Reverend Dr. Jam Samuel, as you tell us, Elvis Doe.
It was a joyful chapel service on Friday, the 26th June 2026 at Bingo Baptist Hospital Chapel of the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services, as the entire community came together to celebrate the 2026 edition of the Chaplain's Love Day. This event was presided at by the hospital administrator, Mr. Kwalak Renel, in the presence of the Bellowfield pastor, the Reverend Dr. James Samuel Timbom, and the Bingo Association pastor, the Reverend Dr. Elvis Fall. It was an elated workers of this community as they reflected on the ministry of chaplains to the community. It was also an opportunity for the hospital community to encourage and to pray for these chaplains. In an earlier devotional thought drawn from the Gospel according to Luke chapter 4 verse 18 to 19, the Reverend Dr. James Samuel exhorted the chaplains to commit themselves to the ministry of preaching the word and providing care to the hospital community. Following this devotional thought was the presentations of gifts to the chaplains. Department by department, the entire Bingo Baptist Hospital community joyfully presented their gifts as a means of love to the chaplains. It should be noted that Bingo Baptist Hospital is a referral hospital serving Cameroonians and beyond, in order that some may be brought to Christ.
Mr. Douglas Fountain, Executive Director of Christians Connection for International Health, CCIH, has commended the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services' robust nature in providing health care. He was speaking recently during his tour at Queen Baptist Hospital. Ruth Lumban completes that story.
Mr. Douglas Fountain, the Executive Director of Christians Connection for International Health, CCIH, has undertaken a brief tour to CBC Health Services facilities in Bamenda. The tour was aimed at showcasing the health services facilities to the august visitor. CBC Health Services staff welcomed the honored guest with a bouquet of flowers, and he visited the various facilities of Queen Baptist Hospital. Mr. Douglas Fountain made a stop at the Central Administration Building, where he was warmly welcomed by the Executive President's Administrative Assistant, Reverend Shanui Franklin. The Director of Evangelism and Mission, Reverend Dr. Paul Mukake, presented an update on their missionary activities. The event was aimed at reflecting on the happenings in the CBC Health Services presented by Mr. Achatese Godwill. Mr. Douglas Fountain probed into the challenges encountered by the CBC Health Services in discharging its duties. The Director of CBC Health Services, Mr. Ngum Samuel, mentioned the difficulties compiling the electronic medical records in different facilities, closure of some facilities, assessment plans for employment, amongst others. members. Mr. Ngum Samuel appraised the partnership with the Christian Connections for International Health.
This visit to me is a very important one, and I think also for Duke, the CEO of CCIH, is his first visit to the Northwest region, and even visiting within the context of this crisis is a lot of encouragement to our entire team. Wherever he visited, I think the team was encouraged that their work also is being recognized by other people out of our country, not only here. So this visit is also a visit of strengthening, because there's a lot of capacity building and strengthening when we are working with CCIH, and that is really one of the things, one of the major achievements of this visit, that if today we can stand at the Baptist Center and be talking, and Duke is right here from CCIH, it's really an achievement.
The CCIH is a global network with over 90 members working with underdeveloped countries, with over 60% being local organizations. Mr. Douglas Fountain gave an appraisal of his visit.
So I'm spending this week understanding the situation in Cameroons. This is my second visit. I spent the week with another organization. Here with CBCHS, I'm trying to understand the extent and nature of the services that they provide, understand the funding environment, the partnerships, those things that are going to help them succeed in their strategic goals. First, I have to understand what their strategic goals are and see how they're changing amidst a lot of hardship and a lot of difficulty. Everything that I've seen has just underscored how exceptional the facilities are. This is actually my second time in Canada. First time I was in Yaoundé, and I visited CBCHS facilities while I was there. And at that point, got an appreciation that these are unique services that are meeting the needs of both people. What I've learned on this visit from the visits in the Southwest, and starting with the health facilities, but also going to the Rehabilitation Training Center, and then also seeing the central supply, the central pharmacy, the manufacturing that's happening in sterile water institutions. These are great innovations. These are the type of things that are going to sustain the CBCHS. Being here in Bamenda, it was giving the chance. We also see a large hospital that has expanded as a result of the conflict. So out of crisis, they're making something good. But also it's given me a chance to make a leadership of CBCHS.
Mr. Douglas Fountain was honored by the leadership team of CBT Health Services with a traditional attire.
That report by Ruth Lumban puts an end to this edition of the news on CBC TV. Thank you for staying with us and keep watching CBC TV.